Welcome back. So today we have a very special point of topic that we can kind of discuss, which huge shout out to MrPokke, by the way. Yep, this entire thing was only made possible with MrPokke. So essentially what happened, just a little bit of a lore drop. So we were basically discussing about Lingsha's capabilities as to essentially what happened to her placing and whether or not she should even deserve to be in the Super Big Team Comp, right? So I went ahead with a little bit of my 2 cents as to why she is not going to be cooking too much. Then one of my lovely mods, Serra of the Lake, came back in with a reply over here where we are going to be talking about the worst pool value of all time. So this was bro's reply. And then afterwards, because of MrPokke, Serra then came up with the original own engagement, which as of this time of recording has more than 500,000 views on the HSR Twitter community on the worst pool value of all time, right? Honkai Star Rail's most worthless pools weighted toward the time of their release, right? This is a very crucial part over here because I don't really think we have too much of a discussion as to how this actually works. So W MrPokke for inspiring Serra to cook this post, and W Serra for giving MrPokke free content. So it is the infinite cycle, if I can say so myself, right? And without further ado, let's just talk a little bit about this particular topic on Honkai Star Rail's most worthless posts weighted toward the time of their release. So what we have in this list is worst pool value of all time currently, and that is going to be Lingsha. Alright, then this is gonna be worst pool value in version 1, that is Topaz, and then this is worst pool value version 2, which is obviously at this point gonna be Lingsha, and the worst pool value in version 3, and that is Saber. So the most important that I think is worth discussing is what exactly is weighted toward the time of their release. So to my understanding is essentially not what the unit does right now as of today, but rather what their unit did back then and all the way until today. Because it's, for example, very easy to just say, okay, you pull for a version 1 or a version 2 DPS. They're obviously not going to be as strong, cost for cost, to a new version unit, right? I think that's kind of brainless, but it is more so back on their time of release, do they actually give you any worth all the way from their creation until today, right? So that is essentially my definition, or rather my interpretation of what this actually means. You can let me know what guys in the comments below on how this is look like. So we're just gonna go through a couple of the comments over here because Serra has infinite time on Twitter, right? So our bro has replied to pretty much every single one of these posts over here. So let's just take a look at a couple of the replies. Meanwhile, the worst is still here at tier 0.5, and then Serra was like, tier list is not pool value just because you're 0.5 in a sustained category when Luocha, Adventuring, Huehue, Gallagher all do the job of keeping your team alive just as good as your LL. Also, first of all, this is literally just lies. Straight up just lying for fun. By any case, DHPD and Hyacinth mocks everyone completely, so that's gonna be our first comment over here. Second comment, Topaz was good for ages. It is not her fault that they haven't done follow-up since Fei Xiao. To which we have, Topaz was never at any point in time best in slot for any follow-up attacker at E0. She was tied with March and Mose for Fei Xiao. Wrong again. She's straight up just worse. Okay, so that's gonna be a counterpoint, Jiao Qiu. And there it is. That Serra was Jiao Qiu carrying Aircron on release and for months and still situationally best in slot. I don't really know about that. But hey, if you guys are E0 Aircron with E0 Jiao Qiu, you can let me know how that's gonna be going for nowadays. But let's just keep moving on a little bit. I pulled both Lingsha and Saber, and I am proud. Yippee! So I think this is basically if you are pulling these units, right? And at the end of the day, it is value. It is not about husbando. It is not about waifu. You can kind of just pull for whatever you want. Because, okay, personally thinking, right? HSR is a game in which you can technically just pull whatever you want. But if you want to like clear the end game, at least like with relative ease and full clear, as long as you lock in to at least 2 teams, right? 2 different teams, you can kind of just spend whatever on whatever unit, technically speaking. Because most, if not all versions DPS, even, okay, maybe except for like even like the version 1, as long as you give them enough like exposure in the new version supports, they can still relatively perform well. So you can, or frankly speaking, even if you did pull for Ninja, if you did pull for Topaz or whatever, as long as you still got your other stuff like settled down, you wouldn't be that far off clearing anyways, right? So that's just gonna be that. Moving on a little bit, as someone who went in full in for Remembrance and only started playing 2.4, so your main team was Budget Facial, I feel like Saber has been a huge boon. I limp across the finisher in MOC and AWOC, but I'm still 3-star in the content. Saber is good, it's just she is surrounded by stronger units, but as a new player Facial, I will fucking end you. In-game. Anyways, I can't believe I got all 4. Yippee! I feel like oh right. I mean, he's right though. At the time of release, Argenti was decent. If we're talking about the worst DPS 5 stars, Scylla Argenti will be on that list. Setch. Okay, I'll talk about my opinions towards the end, but I kind of want to just go through the comments and the sentiments first, and then we can kind of just see for ourselves. But this Argenti, you know, because Serra is a unapologetic Argenti main, I think it's a little bit we'll talk about it a little bit later, right? I'm pretty sure Lingsha being tier 0.5 has better pool value than over half the cards right now. Gallagher exists and makes her worthless. She serves 0 purpose in terms of pool value, and there it is. No, I think Lingsha's value went down only after Hyacinth's release, and then DHPD kind of digged her grave even further. She has a good sustain, a lot of actions, and good damage. It is just that now she's not as valuable. Worst version 2 is probably Black Swan Jiao Chiu meetings. Objectively speaking, this is kind of a lie. Because a sustain is only as good as their skill point economy. And that's also part of the reason why Huan sustain is just really, really uncomfortable. Because if you have to keep funneling skill points into the sustain to make them sustain, then where is your damage gonna go? Because you won't have enough, right? And then if you don't do enough damage, the fight just keeps dragging on and on and on. You are like really, really struggling a lot compared to like more skill point efficient teams. So for example, why Hyacinth is like, despite Hyacinth being so skill point inefficient, her agile team being used, they are very, very skill point friendly. And DHPD is straight up just one of like the most skill point friendly unit. And to a certain extent, back then, Avenging is also really, really skill point friendly. Nowadays, if your Avenging can't sustain, and you need a card skill, you can definitely feel a little bit more of a pressure. But as long as you can keep your skill point economy with your actual survival for the entire team, it should be okay. Lingsha is just one of those units where if you want to run it in, for example, like E05, like, I bet you guys try this, by the way. I didn't even know how bad it was in skill point for like throughout a dragged out fight until I tried it myself firsthand. Oh my god, bro. Like, you really either just forsake a massive amount of damage, or you have to risk Lingsha being almost plain like, you know, serving 0 purpose. And at which point, you probably just gonna be running HMC, you probably just gonna be running Runmei, or you might just fucking run Gallagher, right? So that's just gonna be my 2 cents. All this kind of stuff, I think it is not gonna be as important because it's ultimately gonna be based on your entire team. Do you have DDD? Do you have Super Break, multipliers, all the kind of stuff? So that's gonna be that. Yep, and there it is, right? And that is irrelevant, right? Can't really argue that I have E1 instead of Break Bar just triple and sustainless remain valuable. Dog shit pool value, do I regret it? Not true. Saber is good. And there it is. Yeah, Serra legitimately replies to every single comment and every single repost, which is why I was saying like, bro, if there's an option to mute Serra, except for them hot takes, I would. But unfortunately, bro is just like replying to everyone. You can kind of... I disagree. Serra is not always right. We just be saying anything for fun these days. Or we have very different definition of worst pool value. Why would you pull Lingsha if you have Gallagher or any other 2 premium sustain? You wouldn't unless you're an Eidolon Andy. First of all, let me skip this dummy ass song. And then we're just gonna move on over here. Second of all, for the casuals, I can see why though. Because casuals cannot fathom a sustainless team, even if it was on Super Rig. And let's just be like a little bit like for real. There was definitely a period of time in which Gallagher had a lot more difficulties sustaining compared to Lingsha. I'm not exactly sure what was the it was like slightly between like the start and the middle of version 3. Is that when you try running Gallagher on your break team, it was like really fucking hard to sustain. And Lingsha was kind of the one that was like pulling the team together. But that being said, break team as a whole was just struggling a lot with a sustain. But the moment you go into sustainless, is like, oh, you can kind of just still clear, but definitely need like way more like than cost investments, right? But there was definitely this period of time where like Lingsha was more comfortable than Gallagher, 100%. But nowadays, like, especially now with data coming out, when sustainless is like gonna be like even stronger now, where you don't really need to feel the pressure with like A-box and everything. I don't think people really see the true value of a sustain, which is why I can see like, you know, Lingsha is just kind of a little bit hopeless, right? So that's gonna be that. My Day exists, by the way. My Day is better than Saber. And never is. Saber is better than My Day, maybe even Aglaia. She isn't. Cyrene killed them. If Cyrene didn't exist, yes, it's probably Aggie. One of the best healers for break and follow-up. Luocha mind worms. Gallagher. And never this. And never this. And never this. And putting Saber on here when still 0 cycle anomaly operator. In what world do you live in? Oh, Serra is angry. In what world do you live in? She needed E6 to 0 cycle the last 2. I can't. Bro is literally typing in Twitch emotes. Absolute cinema. So you can just see the replies by itself. Because I think, oh my god, it's Verdi. The rank 1 E33 hater. And there it is, right? So rest of the stuff you can just see by yourself for the tweet. Let's just take a little bit more into the reposts. Because I'm pretty damn sure Serra replied to all of them, right? Let's see. Lost Darling. The worst actual pool value are Finon, Jiao Klo, any DOT if they don't own Kafka, any Super Rig without Dada View My Day, 5 Day being 2 lovers, at the chopped value, I'm cringe. And there it is. Worst pool value of all time, and it's a sustain. That is a little bit mongoose. No one gives a fuck. We'll all pull Lingsha anyways. Day 1, E1, S1, Topaz, Enjoyer. First of all, Jiao Qiu exists. She might not be tier 0 anymore. She might not be the best Super Rigger. She might have a 5 seconds of screen time. She might be power grab by highest and DHP, but she's at least the number 1 in my heart. Nobody does it like you, my queen. She is right. Okay, if you like a unit for their waifu reasons, like literally just pull. Which is why Fei Xiao is the undisputed rank 1 DPS of all time. And I don't even like Fei Xiao as a waifu. She's just that good. 0 biases, by the way. Let's just move on a little bit. Me losing 50-50 to Himeko and pulling Lingsha is actually a boon, and there it is. The fact break could even clear without Lingsha before data release, and you people are still slandering. Ooh, when you agree with a take, but you're so obnoxious and annoying about it, you don't even... War. Oh, war. War. Oh, Daily Lingsha has responded. Oh, Daily Lingsha has responded. The worst pool value in question can act as a DPS with her own team in both break and crit build while sustaining. Is best in slot in every break team and a great sub DPS. Enabler for... Who the f is doing this, by the way? Okay, I mean, I've never seen this in my entire life, so I don't know about that, but that's absolutely crazy. Battery for DHPD exists. Performs good in every end game and still A-best. I think Serra probably responded, right? Oh, there's an... Oh, wow. Holy... Bro, this reminds me of Jingyuan mains back in those days. When MrPokke was one of the first in the entire world to say Jingyuan is just really bad, and then Bro Loki got cancelled. So, and then what to do? Let's take a look, right? Daily Lingsha. She can be put on every team you can imagine, and she will adapt and perform well. She's literally HSR's most jack of all trades character, but not many people can understand the value because of meta slavery and refusing to build their characters because they want a no-brainer unit to carry them. Can't believe the prejudge against her is still there when she's literally an amazing unit to cover up everything in a team and everything you can want from a sustain. I won't reply to tweets like this again because they are obviously rage bait, but it still pisses me off. Chat, the moment anyone says anything that you don't agree with, it is automatically. But I feel like in 2025, this word rage bait has been used like the most I've ever seen in my 27 years of living this earth. Like, anything that people says, as long as you don't agree with them, it is automatically, okay, you know what, bro is rage baiting. I know he is rage baiting, but why is he so angry? Like, people can't really have like actual discussions anymore, which is why MrPokke is the greatest of all time, because we can always have actual discussions right here in our very, very inclusive, heartwarming community, if I can say so myself. Right? Let's just go down a little bit more. Here's her pros and cons basically summarized. Her gives the same amount of energy as her skill, so you can comfortably use basics with for the skill point issue since she has a summon, and basically every sustain needs high speed, so even the cons isn't enough to justify the claims. So this is my favorite website of all time, Mr. Private. Fantastic and consistent body-wide healing, absurd levels of toughness. Okay, whoever wrote this literally just used Lingsha one time in pure fiction and then just never used her ever again. I guarantee you, right? Try running this bitch against Hule and let me know how the toughness bar is going to go. Massively enhances break. Okay, for this particular portion, you kind of need that E1 though. Right, because E1 is the one that gives you defense down as well as bonus break efficiency, right? Other than that, her ultimate gives you a little bit more, but it's extremely negligible to compare to like a actual buffer, right? A consistent healing and toughness bar damage chance to full and follow up with that, and AoE party cleanse alongside a follow-up. Attacks, skills with attack and break effect, meaning she can contribute a lot of damage. Nope. She doesn't do a lot of damage. 81, right? A very strong emergency healing and cleanse potential, excellent energy economy. What the fuck is energy economy, by the way? Okay, yo, huge shout out to Daily Lingsha for actually letting me know. I'm gonna call Andrew after this. I'm gonna ask him what the f are his writers typing. Bro, this will never happen in Pogo, by the way. Poke Corp will never say this. What the f is energy economy? Because last time I checked, energy economy is literally tied to your skill points. If you can use the amount of skill points required for you to get your skill or basic, combined with how frequently you can use the ultimate. So if I need a unit to be spamming skills, I don't think that is too energy economy friendly. You get what I'm saying? And for Lingsha specifically in like a E0 break team, you have no skill points to spare, bro. Fugue is +1. Firefly is like a fucking skill point consumption monster. She just eats every single skill point like a fat fuck that she is. Dada is basically one of the closest things to skill point neutrality, but it's still like +1 to +2. Right, and you really, really want Dada to get the ultimate to implant your weakness or implant your defense now. And if you don't get it, you lose a lot more damage, especially going to the next wave, right? So like, if everybody in this game, or rather in this team, wants skill points, then I don't really think we can say this is to be a good energy economy, right? So we kind of do what it did. Unparalleled synergy with break archetype. Yeah, this was written back in 2024, so it did what do. Less skill point positive compared to her peers, which makes her harder to run in some teams. Once quite high speed to ensure her out debuff is always up. Yeah, we definitely need a little bit more of them update, but that's gonna be our private analysis. No matter what anyone says, it doesn't change the fact that she's a great unit, and even though she has shortcomings, no character was doom posted like this. I think bro literally just fell asleep during the entire time Cyrene was teased, by the way. I have literally never, ever seen a unit as doom posted as Cyrene till this day. Like, if this was doom posting for Lingsha, oh my god, then Cyrene might just be cancelled. She's done. She's literally done before she even hit the early access. Like, she's literally the most hated, most doom posted, dog shit fucking garbage unit, unplayable without either kind of nonsense. So, yeah, respectfully, this is just lying. I'm struggling to understand the lashing, honestly. Some people adding like, okay, that's a little bit crazy. One last thing I want to say about this sustainless thing, unless you are a whale or a very well adjusted team with all 35 rows, having a sustain just brings out comfort, and not many balls are doable these days. Even in a break team, it is comfy. If enemy speed, attack, and HP are high, even if you got the constellations or perfect relics, like the whole sustainer scene only works if you can manage to kill the enemy before it kills you. And if you can't do it, just put the sustain there. If she won't eat you, don't worry. Her only job is to support you clear. People act like Star Rail only needs one team, but instead of various account, you want flexibility. She is a whole ass free trace. Free 99 trace that gives her basically the same amount of energy as a skill. Okay, you know what would have actually made this trace way better? If she can actually continuously build up Fu Yuan without using the skill. That would have actually made this basic really, really good. But the unfortunate thing is, you're eventually gonna run out of Fu Yuan. So you have to use a skill at some point of time, which is just like a little bit unfortunate. So unfortunately, we do have severe skill issue. Very, very sad. Wait, where's Serra's reply? Oh, and there it is. Can act as a DPS, yes. Is best in slot in premium break, false. Performs good equal to a 4-star is not the selling point to make it worth up to 160 boosts. And there it is. Are you implying she's as good as Gallagher? Yep. 99% of players don't care about sustainers. I will believe you until final drop and then everyone cares. It's more like 80 to 90% of the players who do endgame content don't care about sustainers, and sustainers not being considered is why Super Break fell off. Okay, that and also the absolutely fucking insane amount of timeless inflation. So combined together is just kind of a recipe for disaster. She literally gives a buff for the Break team. The Bishop. Whoa. So that is pretty much gonna be that. I think we kinda need to move on a little bit over here. So that is gonna be our daily Lingsha's retweet. Still not using Gallagher. Oh, that bomb Gallagher is better than my gold Queen shot. I'm crying. Y'all stink. Not my fault you can't utilize characters and invest properly. Pool value is completely made up because each unit has a unique value depending on your account. You just don't get the Queen of Honkai Star Rail. Worst value of all time is the Herda. This is literally just a line for fun. A Tobas, Xiao Qiu, the Herda. All my homies hate Gallagher. Posing as if Lingsha isn't needed in every Break team. You don't. Always so good luck on your Lingsha pool's next banner. It's fun to play if you have you, and if you don't use it, blah, 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 blah. So that is pretty much, I think, the general community sentiment. So to nobody's surprise, everyone hates Serra now. Alright, I don't think I've seen a single quote retweet that actually agreed with Serra. I have no idea what this is. Maybe Yazbel can translate this for me. So, yep, TLDR, Serra is done. So let's go ahead and take a look into the actual 2 cents of the HSR expert, if I can say so myself, right? He's coming!
The greatest Honkai Star Rail tourist that has ever lived.
MrPokke, the undisputed HSR expert of no time, not rage baiting by the way. So the worst pool value of all time currently for version 1, version 2, as well as all 3 versions combined, right? Now, I actually did a little bit of cooking before I would have talked about this over here. Yo, Eyes of Pandora, thank you so much for 21 months.
Real HSR players know Castoras has the worst pool value because you lose your morals with it.
You're absolutely fucking right. That's why I didn't pull Castoras from main account, because I have morals, right? So, worst pool... Okay, I will talk about this towards the end, but we'll go by version first, right? Tobas. Here's the thing. Tobas would have been pretty bad, but I personally think Argenti's existence literally serves zero purpose, and I would die on that hill, right? I would just die on that hill, cause I remember the process when Argenti came out, right? He was basically built for that. I think 1, if not 2 rotations of Shield MOC back when he launched in 1.5, where you had the Huan boss, the circus boss, right? Do you guys remember? It was like the ghost boss where she had the eyeball and she summoned the mobs. That was like one of the only times I ever see Argenti play, and that kind of pretty much it. And then after a while, it is also around the same time period where we have pure fictions the game mode. So he was getting a good amount of a buff up for Memory of Chaos, as well as the literal brand new Pure Fiction game mode. But here's the thing. When they released Pure Fiction back then, which was like, I think it was been more than 2 years, it was like extremely easy. It was in fact so easy that literally nobody really cared if you had Argenti or no Argenti, because you were clearing that content with shit like Baby Herda. You were clearing that content with shit like Himeko, right? And generally speaking, the mobs back then, it was very, very accessible to the point where you can literally still use your version 1.0 DPS like Scylla to proc Resurgence. Yep, I know, right? Scylla proccing Resurgence in 2025 is basically impossible, especially pure vision. But back then, Scylla was still considered a good unit. Because the units back then was so easy to kill. You just had infinite terms of units that were your 1.0. So effectively, Argenti's role was destined to sort of be dedicated towards AoE environment, which is gonna be pure fiction. Because the moment MOC was gonna be going away into version 2, we had the additional rise of the Zurich shield for Firefly, as well as a little bit more of the inherited shielding, but it is never gonna be as high as compared to like back when you first launched Evergreen. So fast forward to, let's just say, version 3, right? There are a few times where Argenti kind of came out here and there, which is basically to be the Herda slave. Except the Herda slave can be fulfilled by Herda as well as Saval, which is the exact same argument you could make for Topaz, which is Topaz eventually became a Facial slave. But Facial slave could also be fulfilled by Hanmar 7 as well as Mosing, right? But between both Topaz as well as Argenti, I just genuinely don't really see any potential for Pro at all, because at the end of the day, he does nothing in terms of an overall kit itself for any other units, because he is supposed to be played as a main DPS, right? Argenti was technically meant to be played as a main DPS. So, in fact, if you would ask me a single unit in this entire game right now that needs a buff, I would desperately say it's Argenti. I legitimately think if you were to wipe me out from the story, if you wipe me out from the game itself, if you wipe me out from its release, like if this character did not exist from 1.5, you would have felt nothing though. There will be literally zero impact on whether or not Bro even exists, which is what I think is like the ultimate sentiment when it comes to pool value, right? Or rather, the worth weighted toward the time of their release. Because, like I mentioned at the start of this, it is not about what they do nowadays, it is between the time when they came out until today. So that is gonna be my personal 2 cents. My worst pool value for version 1 is going to be Argenti, right? So that's pretty much gonna be that. Feel free to disagree about it. I'm not saying that I'm the mastermind of HSR and like everything I say is correct, but that is gonna be my worst pool value for version 1. Okay, worst pool value version 2. Here's the thing. It is someone from Spirit, but I actually don't really think it's Lingsha. I'll give you guys 10 seconds to make a guess, but I'll take a sip of water. This is a very important to understand when it comes to pool value, which is also tied to a little bit on Argenti as well, is the banner placements. So for version 1 Argenti, 1.5 was Huan Argenti, and we all know what was 1.6. The undisputed, one of, if not the best unit that HSR has made, Mr. Kazuha, Farina, Ranmei, right? So Argenti was literally right before that, right? So it really made Bro's competition that much higher. And it is also the reason why if you did in fact went to pull for Argenti and you bricked up not just that Ranmei pool, but you were also potentially breaking up your pools going to version 2. Because it was towards the later end of the version, right? It was towards the later end of the version, right? So fast forward to version 2, you can kind of see like a little bit more of a similar situation happening, which is what is a unit that was gonna come right before a really good support. And we are also about to go into the brand new version. Personally, I would say the worst pool value, personally, it will be, oh my god, Fort Master, can you tell me why my E6 unit perform worse than E0 for a non-operator? You have skill issue. You have skill issue, my man, right? Your E6 unit should 0 cycle anomaly arbitration. You should give bro S5 Kira-san black, and then bro have more speed, and then she can actually 0 cycle, right? Absolute fucking simple. Okay, but anyways, as I was saying before, Fort Master ruined my thought process. I personally think the worst pool value of version 2 is going to be Reba, right? Okay, first of all, I don't hate Reba, by the way. I have a lot of fun with Reba. I did a lot of content, even on my main channel, for Reba, where I essentially tested how with Firefly, and tested how with like, even without Ranmei, we use a Panda sustain, right? But at the end of the day, if you would look at a long-term scope, right? The role that Reba fulfilled was really, really, really niche, which is because on her launch, we have access to both the TV boss, the Puppet Trio, as well as the Break Shield environment, which ties back into that Sunday and Fugue patch as well, right? So the reason why I say this is because, and not Boot Hill, is because as I would say between Boot Hill and Reba, Boot Hill's competition was essentially between Bubbin, right? It was the banner between Bubbin as well as our upcoming, essentially our anniversary, and then we are gonna be seeing 5 kind of stuff. But you don't really have that type of an opportunity cost because for most Super Break mains, if you're constructing that one team, you wouldn't really care about Bubbin unless you put Bubbin for a team too. Super Break mains do not concern themselves with whether or not Bubbin would exist for a team. But Reba came at a time where Fugue was gonna come out. That's the most important thing, right? And if you were to go ahead with the pull for Reba, and you wanted to pull for Fugue, and that's assuming you actually managed to skip on both Boot Hill Firefly because you really, really wanted to pull for a Super Break DPS for whatever you enjoy playing Super Break, right? Then you would also be at the same time breaking your pulls, or rather lowering your pulls, going into version 3. Which I think is the reason why is that the banner positioning and her actual value to the worth on your account is just that much lower compared to, let's just say, Boot Hill as well as Link Shop, right? So to put a little bit of context, like for example, my account right now, my free play account, I saved up 200 pulls for version 4. I don't know what version 4 is going to be. I don't really have any intention for putting Super Break on my free to play account, and I do not want to try to expand up into a team comp towards the end of the version when I know every single new version HSR is going to be coming out with a new thing. And I doubt it's going to be Super Break, right? So because of that reason, if you did in fact prove a Reba, not to say that she's worthless or whatever, but like the value that she's going to be bringing is like towards the later end of that specific archetype. And let's just be real, we didn't really know how far Super Break as well as Thanos Bar Inflation was going to fall off in the future. So if you did in fact pull for Lingsha at that period of time, and let's just say you want to use category, you don't want to use category, right? You can still use her for a Super Break team. But if you did in fact pull for Lingsha, but it break your pulls for Fugue, you will be in a position where you either lose out on Fugue, or you couldn't really plan enough pulls going to version 3. So you might be forced to, let's just say, like, you went all in. You went all in for Reba, you went all in for the Signature Lycone, you went all in for Fugue as well, because Fugue was gonna be like super good for Exo Toughness anyways. If you went to version 3 with like, almost no pulls, I don't think you would have enough to get yourself, like, let's just say, for example, Tribi or E1 Tribi. And then if you did have enough for E1 Tribi, how the hell are you going to be preparing for, like, the next flagship, which is going to be around the anniversary period, right? So at the end of the day, value for your account is always going to be tied to opportunity cost. And I'm not sure if Serra actually considered in the opportunity cost of their banner placement, because I think that will have a lot more of an impact in the long term, right? Because it's very easy to say Lingsha is basically useless nowadays because you can run Sustainers, right? You can run her with a category replacement, which basically does serve like almost zero purpose. But at the same time, her banner placement was having a little bit of a gap between Reba as well as Fugue. So if you still want to talk about Lingsha's value as a sustain, you can definitely also see some periods where she definitely made it more comfortable than Gallagher. This is without a doubt, especially for the casual player base on full E0. I know that Sustainer Super Break is a thing, and you should try to learn to run Sustainer Super Break, but to cater towards casuals, I can't just like completely say the only way to play Super Break is going to be with Sustainers, right? If you still want to play Sustained Super Break, especially for scenarios where your Gallagher just isn't really cutting it, especially for that patch in the middle of version 3, then Lingsha's value definitely is going to be able to come up a little bit more, right? So you wouldn't see that bad of a diff. Whereas on the other hand, for Reba, if you did in fact get yourself that Reba, nowadays, how many times do you actually use her? Like I said, this is not about the value of the units from now exclusively. It is like on the time of her release, who else are you competing her with? And now, right? Because like even before Dahlia, Reba, Firefly, Budo, they all are like really, really cooked. But I just don't really see a world at any point in the timeline between her release until now where I can say, okay, you know what? I really, really appreciated Reba for that particular moment, right? You might say, yes, pure fiction. Reba was like a lot better in pure fiction than both Firefly and Budo. But at the same time, pure fiction as a game mode also had a lot of different options. I think you guys have also saw that there's this video that I made a very long back, which was when Fugue released. We had the power of infinite DDTs. Okay, granted it was E2 Fugue, but we had the power of infinite DDTs, and we can use this free unit called Himiko. Super Brave Himiko with Fuke, HMC, Rami. Oh my god, that team was super fun. And she's free. So the same argument you could say that, okay, you know what, Gallagher does Red Bar Shop better, or rather that for free. You can also kind of say that in pure Fusion Break, Himiko low-key also did Red Bar Shop, and it's a little bit easier to match elements because like Himiko was the same fire element for the rest of the units, right? So that is pretty much gonna be my 2 cents. Worst pool value of version 2 is gonna be Reba, right? Once again, last time, I don't hate Reba. I love the way Reba plays. I play a lot of Reba. If I play more Reba than Boothill, but I think that in terms of like, what was the word again? Weighted toward the time of their release, which includes the opportunity cost banners, that's gonna be my decision, right? So that's gonna be for version 2. And lastly, moving on to version 3, the worst pool value of version 3. Okay. This one honestly is a little bit iffy because there's not really enough time to see what version 3 has to offer in version 4. You won't really know what version 4 has because like, what if in version 4 they just come up with a support that makes Saber super good? Like what if in version 4 they came up with a better Hui, right? They come up with a better energy sustainer, right? Because all these, like version 1 and version 2 is a little bit clearer to see because you have given them like 1 or 2 years to develop the new teams in that archetype. So maybe right now, Saber might not be that good, but there's no telling if version 4, they release another support or a sustain that makes her that much stronger. And to be fair, Saber has been kind of using the exact same team since her launch, and she can't really make use of Cyrene, and she's basically just running Sunday Bubbin as well as Hui, right? So as of right now, based on the information I have right now, it is Saber. I agree with Serra. As of right now, it is Saber. Because I can't talk about hypothetical situations. I can't predict the future. I don't know if they're going to be making the future like skill point meta or energy meta or whatever meta. But on whatever I see as of this moment, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to pull for Saber. Because you're essentially running Saber on the banner right before around Cyrene, right? I think Saber came out with Mr. Violon, right? 3.4. And then I think it was 3.5 high stance. But it is a little bit more of a leeway because for most DOT mains, or rather non-DOT mains, you wouldn't really care about high stance at 3.5, right? Then going into essentially right before Cyrene, which is going to be, I believe, the Serija, right? Serija high stance. If you wanted to put for a Phynon, that's fantastic. Because you are going to be getting vertical investments for Serija. And Saber, I would say, it is really like more so of a fan service unit, right? She is great, she is good, she is decent. But in terms of like the vertical supports for her as of right now, it is not going to be well established. Because she really doesn't really... Okay, first of all, bro, what the is this brain rot song, bro? Amy, I will literally ban you. Yeah, as I was saying, so as of right now, from what I see, Saber is the technical worst pool value, but it is not gonna be as concrete compared to these two, because in version 4, who's to say if that she doesn't get any vertical support, right? So out of all pool values, the worst pool value of all time, personally, right now, I would say, oh, it's kind of hard to say. Okay, it's definitely not going to be Saber, right? It's definitely not going to be Saber because I don't know what's going to be in version 4. But between Argenti and Reba, oh my god. Chat, who should I choose, guys? Argenti or Reba? If I choose Argenti, Serra will hate me for the rest of my life. Argenti? Argenti has no Boba. Serra said Argenti. Oh, Serra said Argenti. Okay, so Serra of the Lake has actually considered, even Bro has said it's Argenti. So therefore, the rank 1 HSR expert, MrPokke, has declared the worst value of all time currently is going to be Argenti. So yo, Mr. Editor, so my list is this is gonna be Argenti. So Photoshop Argenti over here, Photoshop Reba, and then this one keep it as same, right? So that is gonna be my list. Once again, before I end on this video, it is just purely my subjective opinion because I have my reason for choosing them as to what I think about them right now, back then, as well in the future. If you feel free to disagree or agree, I think this is gonna be a very interesting topic because again, it is not what they do now and only now. It is from when they released, did they do anything at all? And what was the opportunity cost of getting them at the expense of others, right? So let me know what you guys think. It was a super interesting topic. Word of the day is going to be Serra goes to war. Join this, join this. Use code Pokke for them as of gamer subs. All the best for guys boost. See you guys next time. Bye. No script, by the way.